recall that we stated that it was really important for you to understand the hierarchical flow of our iOS. Here's the reason why. If you understand where to go to complete your tasks, once you get there, you can use help. Now, how hard is it to access help in the iOS?
It's not hard. So I know how I access help in Microsoft DOS. I type in help if I want to get a list, or I might use /?. Similar here, all I need is 2 fingers. And these 2 fingers should be on the right shift and the key just left of the right shift. I want to do the question mark. That's my help. I can do it at a blank prompt. I do it at a blank prompt. It gives me everything I can do at that prompt. I do it at the end of commands. Then I can figure out how to use those commands. Here's the deal. Here's what Raymond's saying. You don't have to memorize everything. You don't have to memorize everything. Raymond has well over a decade of Cisco experience, as do I. And there's commands that we occasionally forget. There's commands where we forget exactly how to weave all of the parameters together. There's commands that we may not know how to spell on a bad day. And help helps us through all of those day-to-day challenges.
There's 2 ways we can get help. Notice, if we put the question mark right against a letter, so don't leave a space, what we're doing is we're getting word help. It's helping us figure out what commands start with those letters we've typed in. So if you type in CL question mark, the iOS is going to tell you you could mean clear or you could mean clock.
This is a really nice thing to be able to do if you don't know how to spell it, or more realistically, you don't know if the command is supported in the chassis. Sometimes you don't know if a command is supported, so you'll start to dial back how many characters you are. You're like, this can't be in the operating system if it doesn't recognize it with C question mark or CL. And so it'll give you all of those commands that start with that letter combination. That's pretty useful, Raymond. Now, you were being really clear about something. You get that functionality if it's right up against a letter without a space. The space, just so everyone's clear, is a parameter separator. You put in a space there, we expect another parameter. So Raymond, how does the question mark work if we instead use a space and then a question mark following some stuff that exists to the left-hand side?
So let's say I typed in clock, space, question mark. The iOS is now going to give me the next parameter that is expected in the syntax of this command. It might only be one parameter, but there could be multiple parameters that are available for me to type in. So in this case, it's asking me to set the time and date. But it's telling me I have to type in set. So I type in set, put a space, do another question mark. And I can just continuously do this until I build out my entire command that I want to type in. Very, very powerful feature. Don't you agree, Dan?
I do. And it's needed for such a simple task. Setting the time shouldn't be as complicated as this. But the thing that I even struggle with is the challenge of specifying the month. When I look at my credit cards, the month for expiration date is in numbers. 09. It's always September for me, no matter what. Okay. But here, we're talking about June. Okay. But could I have specified the number? Well, June is the 6th month, right? Could I have specified 6? No, I cannot. It says month. And so you could definitely be challenged with such a simple task as setting the time.
So if you mess up something so simple, will the iOS let you know? Yeah, it will. That's where the console error messages come into play. With the console error messages, if you type in something and you haven't provided enough characters for the iOS to recognize it, it'll tell you it's an ambiguous command. I don't understand this. You gotta be more specific. Let's say I don't complete my entire command and I've pressed enter. I'm telling the iOS, execute this command. Whoa, it's incomplete. You're missing parameters. So we have to go back and fix that.
And you'll get that. You'll get that in this course. You go to set an IP address. You know, okay, I gotta go set an IP address on this interface, right? You're like, I'm so great. I figured out the first IP address in this usable subnet, and you type that in, press enter. We're gonna get an incomplete command. Error message, Raymond. Why is that?
Because we didn't provide a subnet mask.
So that'll definitely happen to you here. But Raymond, here's the worst error message that's ever been created. I know what you folks are thinking out there. At least a few of you might be thinking it. What's the most annoying error message ever created in any command line operating system? Abort, retry, fail. Okay, do you ever remember that? It was such a... it's a horrible error message. Thankfully, we don't have horrible error messages in Cisco command line. We don't. They are, in fact, helpful enough to usually point us to the exact digit or column, the exact character that we fell short of the expectations to satisfy the needs of the command line. And it'll have this little caret.
So Dan was talking about entering June or 6 in the actual command. It's expecting June. It's not expecting 6 to represent the month. So Dan typed in 6 in this case, and it says invalid input detected at this specific spot right there. In a previous demonstration, you would have seen me press question mark. What is question mark? Question mark is referred to as help, folks, in our iOS. And depending on how we utilize the question mark, it's going to give us different results. For example, I typed in question mark here without any other information attached to it. What did it give me? It gave me all the exec commands that I could execute at privileged exec mode. So let's try one right now. Let's go with clock, so we can manage the actual system time on ASW1. So I'm going to type in C here to start off with. I'm going to use the question mark right now after typing C. Look at that. It is showing me all the commands that start with C that I can use at privileged exec mode. Well, I want clock. Let me try CL. We have clear and clock. Let's do O. Clock. It's my only option. Now here's something that's really cool. I can type in clock here. That would work. There's no other option besides clock. Let's go back to CL. What options did it give me? Clear and clock. I'm going to press the tab key, folks. The tab key. Tab is for auto-completion. Notice when I hit tab, it's just keeping CL and it's giving me another line. When this happens, the iOS is telling me there's more than one option. And we can see that it's clear and clock. But let's type in O for clock. And now let's hit tab. Folks, you see what tab did? When I pressed tab, it did auto-complete for the command. So you don't have to type out the whole command. You can start typing it out, and if there's enough characters in that command, to make it unique, you can hit Tab and auto-complete it. But there's another great thing as well. Whether I type in clock here, or I just type in CLO, it means the exact same thing. For example, if I type in clock and hit question mark, look at this. It's giving me some options now that go with clock. We'll talk about that here shortly. Let's type in CLO, which is unique enough to mean clock because there'd be no other option but clock. Let's go ahead and hit space and question mark, same options. So as long as you type in enough characters to make it unique, the iOS knows what you mean. So let's do clock, set. So notice now that I actually left a space and then I inputted the question mark. What is this giving me? This is now giving me the other parameters that can go with clock. So I can type in set. Let's hit space again and see what other options I have. All right, current time. Let's do something here right now. Let's go ahead and just hit enter and let's see what happens. Incomplete command. This is great information here. The iOS is telling me that I have not provided enough parameters in order to actually successfully complete this command. So let's go ahead and walk through this a little further. Current time. Let's pick 1300 hours, 25 minutes, 00 seconds. What else is it asking me now? Day of the month, month of the year. Well, let's pick the 23rd of what month? Let's type in month. Unrecognized command. All right, so the iOS doesn't recognize this command, but didn't it tell me to type in month? No. In this case, it's actually looking for the actual month. So it's just looking for me to type in a word, such as November. So that was successful. November is the 11th month, correct? So let's type in 11. Ooh, yeah. So unrecognized command there as well. So it's looking specifically for November. But let's see what happens if I type in 11 and then hit enter instead of question mark. Ooh. Invalid input detected at caret marker. All right, so it's telling me I put in the wrong command right there. The iOS recognizes all of this, but it doesn't recognize from here forward. All right, so let's fix that. So it's really looking for November. Great. Great. This is great help in our iOS. The more you play with it, the easier it becomes. All right, so what's after November? The year, 2012. And then I can hit enter. Let's go ahead and do that. Perfect. Updated my clock, and you can see here that we got a syslog message telling me that. Now, what happens if I type in a command? For example, CL and hit enter. It tells me it's ambiguous. There's not enough information to actually complete the command. But remember what we were talking about earlier? If we give enough information to make it unique enough, the iOS knows exactly what we're talking about. So for example, if I type in show clock, that would be the whole command. Show clock. But let's see what would be unique enough. S, H, okay, so SH is unique enough. C. Oh, lots of stuff that start with C. CL. Okay, we're getting better. CLO. All right, so SH space CLO means the same thing as show clock, so I'd get the same output. Complete. SH, tab, CLO, tab, show clock. So keep that in mind. Play around with your iOS. Become familiar with it. Learn to utilize context-sensitive help. When the question mark is appended right to the word without any space, It's going to tell you all the words that start with those characters that are acceptable at that particular command prompt. So in this case, privileged exec mode. If there's a space, then it helps you out with the overall syntax of the command. So what are the commands that can follow the current command that you just entered?